again, this is Ben Hitchcock cross-talking to you today with Debbie Kuether for Deliberate Indifference Wisconsin. We are sort of here looking at a month in review, talking about what we've learned and what the feedback that we've gotten from all of you here. So, Debbie, can you share what you've got?
Absolutely. It has been really mind-blowing, the outreach that has come my way, whether it's through social media or messaging. I get a lot of messaging through various social media platforms, especially when I post something on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. I get outreach from people that I have never met before. Okay. And sometimes they are people that are still in the system, and other times there are people that are contacting me from other states, all over, and it really is, I would say, roughly I get 4 or 5 outreaches a week with people who are recounting a similar story.
From MPS or what?
Not in both. So total. So from MPS, I probably have 1 to 2 per week. And then from the broader people reaching out, and a lot of people are former employees, so I guess I don't know if I would categorize, I would say them as MPS, but there are a lot of people who have decided to leave Milwaukee Public Schools, and they're reaching out, reflecting upon their experience and making connections about what they see, and they're saying, yep, this is exactly an experience that I had. This is how it intersects, and I have a lot of outreach that way. It's really mind-boggling. I mean, you can go into my apps and my different media pieces, and just it's layered in there. It's very consistent. It's voluminous, and I try to talk to everybody who contacts me.
Wow. Okay.
In some way.
Okay, because I don't see all that, so that's fascinating. I think what you were saying tracks with another thing we were talking about earlier, which is just in terms of the YouTube feedback. In the beginning, the first month or so, it was, say, 50% of the people who were watching were clearly MPS directly related people who were coming from your social media. And then I think now when we're looking at it, that's down to a quarter. And it does seem like there is a broader audience that's happening. So I think we're celebrating that.
We are. And what I noticed, especially on LinkedIn, which I have to chuckle at that platform just sometimes because you don't think of it as similar to other social media platforms.
You mean like Facebook or what?
Right. Well, right, because LinkedIn is more, the business slice of things. Okay. And I think that's why there is a really huge community that's coming forward from that particular area. I'm noticing a lot of business managers that are I have a lot of interaction with city managers, business managers, legal, people that are in the legal realm are wanting to have discussions with me about certain aspects of what I've posted. And I find it fascinating, and I think it's important for my learning and for the broader learning to engage in those discussions, whether they be through messaging or on the visible platform that's public. But the individuals that I get from MPS, obviously I don't do that with them. So I do try to maintain a lot of confidentiality that way, because a lot of our discussions, I feel like I'm there as a listening ear, a thought partner, and just allowing that individual the opportunity to express what's happened to them. And sometimes I give coping mechanisms for that person. So, but we do talk a lot about what the posts are.
And so there's a video I did that's called Whistleblowers Garcetti, and I think that talks about the difference between how people who are working at MPS now or for the government currently now and who are not working there, and so the difference that we can treat their information and how the heightened level of let's say responsibility and fear that people who are currently working are under as opposed to anything else. Can I switch you, though, because you were saying there's a bunch of managers, people who aren't related. Is there a central theme or something that of those kind of comments that you're getting from that slice of the internet.
Right, so a theme that we're noticing is that the culture of these institutions that many of us are working in has really been evident in all of our experiences that these institutions aren't necessarily relying on the law to govern, whatever the jurisdiction of the law is, that they're not using that as their touchstone for decision making. Instead, it has become extremely political, and it's in ways that none of us have seen before.
Oh, okay,
And-
right. I forgot about, right. We've
Yeah,
seen
like, I
that.
mean, it's
We've
the
definitely seen
tone
that.
in the setting is, I don't want to say violent, but it is aggressive, and it is like dog eat dog, it is just nasty, and even anybody trying to do the work, that it's, you can't even do the work anymore.
And so I've been using this word Stalinist lately, and I don't know if that is what we're talking about here. And so I just want to describe what
Authoritarian,
I'm
yes.
talking about, which is, well, and so Stalinism is a particular brand of that, I think, where there's a push, there's a sort of like a fantasy of what we're ideal, of what we're doing, sort of a cult-like concept, and that there is extreme pressure to follow whatever that prevailing dogma is. And so, and one thing that was particularly strange about Stalinism is, the 5-year plan, or who was the enemy, that would change all the time.
Yeah.
So the only people who would thrive in that environment were the morally flexible, right?
Yes.
And anybody who was rigid or said, well, this contradicts what you said, 2 months ago,
Right.
those people are off to the gulag, right?
Yeah.
So there's that, and then I think part of what goes on with that is once you create an environment like that, there's all this self-policing of your thoughts that I think go with that. And then also, again, this denouncing of people. So if I want to settle a score, I think, right, it was somebody else,
Right.
then I can say you're opposing Chairman Stalin, or right.
Yeah, and there's this little tally thing that everybody's keeping behind the,
Right.
behind the scenes,
Right.
and decisions are made that way versus what the public thinks these institutions are making decisions on, which is good practice of things that are based in policy, things that are based in law, things that are based on collective. It is not that way anymore. That's what we talk about.
And I thought when you were going to say that, I thought you were going to, I thought I was anticipating an answer like they're just following the culture that there's not a lot of training. There is this theme that keeps coming up lately where even people in extremely high places, heads of HR,
Yes.
are not really following any policy or procedure or anything that anybody's told them. They're just doing what they thought the predecessor had done.
And that is, I want to make sure we sweep that in. That is absolutely, as a matter of fact, I just had that discussion last week with a group of people, a very visible public one. If you go to my LinkedIn page, you can see that. We describe that exactly. Whereas now it's gotten so far away that individuals don't even have an awareness
Right.
of those pieces, and they're very savvy at the other moves that you just described, which are those political ones, but they've not even bothered to train these individuals on what it is, basic, fundamental, and foundational pieces that if you are in that position, you should have that as a basic piece.
Right, because so often, and we've told ourselves we were going to stick off of right, so I'll just say correct, because I think so often we've got this situation where people, high management, are able to say, well, that's the way I'm doing it, I'm the manager, I can do whatever I want. And where that sometimes stops for them is when they're confronted by the law, right? So at least to a certain extent, the law against discrimination is a hard, fast barrier there that, when you're just doing things against culture, that that may not be the same if in terms of curriculum standards.
Yeah.
Might not be the same in terms of, are we doing a good job for equity, or is the schools clean, or anything else. But
True.
there is sort of an enforcement mechanism there, at least that we're trying to put forth, right? So that I think that is sort of reality smacking the culture in the face there.
And people that are still there, the ones that contact me that are still there, and there is a big number of those people that to this day, and I've been gone over 2 years now, that they are saying that very thing, that it is so egregious that you can't even look the other way anymore. I mean, in the past, you could maybe reconcile some of it with, well, that person's new. They don't, now there's no excuse. And people that are there are struggling on a regular basis to understand that they are in public education with a mission, yet nothing that they are doing on the day-to-day or nothing that they are doing and presenting to the public is matching up with the tenets of that mission.
And based on the comments and the feedback that we're getting, do you think that's a broader issue? You know, when we're just focused on MPS, do you think that's a specific thing to MPS? You know, in terms of where we are in the Posley administration, there was everything.
I think it's broader than Milwaukee Public Schools, and Milwaukee Public Schools has it down. I mean, they have learned the tricks of the trade from all because this is a lineage of individuals that have utilized that kind of thinking, have really manifested it well in the Milwaukee Public Schools.
Right, they're not an island.
They're not an island.
Okay.
But this is not unique to that setting. And by the way, we see the tentacles of Milwaukee Public Schools leadership going out into other neighboring districts.
The Big Five, just
that's
for
right.
Okay,
so I mean, it's the same people. They have been trained up on this way of thinking, and this protection and setting up systems that way. And then they go out and they're a superintendent over here, or they're in DPI in this role, and they're planting those different places so that begins to grow outward.
All right. I mean, I told you we could talk about this for an hour.
Oh,
right?
yeah. And so could all of the people that are listening. They know exactly what we're talking about.
Right, and probably MPS too. Well, we haven't probably achieved our goal of sticking off the rights, but we're getting better.
I'm working on it.
And but we appreciate all your feedback, and everybody that's I think we're trying to say you help us grow, and I hope we're helping you grow, and hopefully there's just good feedback on all sides.
That's right. And Ben, before we wrap up, I want to make one more plea, like you made in the Garcetti Rule 1, and that is to my colleagues that are there. I know that you're very limited in what you can do, but the recent retirees or people that have been in the system, you can reach out and you can make a statement to make growth in the current environment for the people that are there. So I really think it's important, if you have something to say, you can add to the conversation and you can help make things better moving forward.
I think that every one comment that we make brings two more.
That's right. That's right. And that means so much.
Right.
So please do that for everybody who's still in the system.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll keep you informed.
Thanks.